Hello everybody, Megazord X here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video. And man, oh man, with the inclusion of Nintendo coming out and finally addressing who is Emio. Now we know that is Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club series. And now that we know that game is scheduled to come out, quick turnaround cycle in the month of August, we basically know every game that Nintendo's going to possibly put out for the rest of 2024. And they got a game coming out from July all the way to November, a game every single month, with the exception of December. And that has me to thinking, one is like, dang, this is Nintendo Switch's 8th year on the market, right? And we basically almost had a game coming out every single month this year, with the exception of 2 different months. So that has me to thinking, one is like, wow, what a wild year has it been for the Nintendo Switch in its 8th year on the market though. So in today's video, I just kind of want to go through and just give my thoughts on every game that Nintendo has already put out, what the rest of the games are going to look like for the rest of this year, and then in comparison to some of the final years that past systems got for like the Wii and the Wii U respectively though, in comparison to kind of see where that might shape things out in terms of us potentially getting the next system for 2025 with the Nintendo Switch 2 and everything we can kind of expect upon that though. So I'm going to be talking about quite a bit of different topics here in this video though. So let's go ahead and get up in it though. So if you hadn't already done so, make sure you're going to hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight up into this video. It's crazy to think that the Nintendo Switch originally launched back in 2017. The console is 7 years old and it's officially in its 8th year on the market. And in a year where we already had the information revealed from Nintendo themselves saying that, hey, you know, expect some kind of news related with the Nintendo Switch 2 to be announced within this upcoming fiscal year. Everybody's on the Switch 2 lookout in terms of like when potentially could a release date come for the system, what could be the specs for it though, what could be the form factor, is it going to have backwards compatibility with the Nintendo Switch though. So a lot of eyes have been, you know, actively been wondering and pondering what the Switch 2 could be though. But Nintendo had quite a bit of tricks up their sleeve that at least keep us, you know, consumers and stuff occupied with the here and now and keep our eyes still focused on Nintendo Switch, which is actively the console that's being out on the market right now though. Because a lot of us were wondering before that June Nintendo Direct, what all could Nintendo be releasing for the rest of this year though? And then they happen to come out with that Direct and stuff saying, hey, you know, Mario and Luigi's having a brand new game dropping out in November. We got a new Super Mario Party over here though. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which is like the first inclusion of a game where we have Zelda as a playable character up in there. Wild stuff. And we already know previously like Luigi's Mansion 2 is coming out in June, and we also had the Nintendo World Championship NES edition and stuff, so they kind of reiterated on some of the games we already knew about and announced a whole slew of other games that we're going to fill out the rest of this year though. And then lately, like literally a couple of weeks ago, we did manage to get a tease of who is Emio. And you know, this was kind of weird how we didn't know exactly what this game is. It was a horror style look-like game, and it was rated mature, which might have been like the first for Nintendo in like a long time though. We know Nintendo to be like that rated E for everyone company though, not necessarily a company going around and making like mature rated games though. But turn around a week later, we got a lot more information on the game. It is actually known as Emio the Smiling Man. It is actually the 3rd series in the Famicom Detective Club series, and literally you had Yoshio coming back as the producer for this one, who was the original producer in the first couple of games though, and literally come back and say, hey, this game is coming out on August 29th, a sequel to a game in the series 30 years later in the works though. So that is crazy. So they still managed to put out a game in August though. So now when I sit back and look at it, we had a game come out in the Nintendo Switch for the year 2024 every single month with the exception of 2 months. Let's just go through and just look at everything now that we know everything that has been announced and revealed for 2024. So all the way back in the month of January, we had another Code Recollection. It was basically like a duology of the original DS and Wii games. So that's what we had in January. In February, we turned around and had, you know, Mario versus Donkey Kong, basically a GBA remake of that game. So that was really nice. March, we managed to get Princess Peach Showtime and stuff. April was was one of those months where we didn't manage to have anything released on that month. May made up for the no release in April because we managed to get Endless Ocean Luminous, as well as Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door remake, which, gosh, by golly, I never expected Nintendo to go back and actually dabble with a well-known, beloved classic, at least within the Paper Mario community, though. Turning around in the month of June, then we managed to get the release of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, going through and remastering some 3DS games, all right. And then July, we managed to have Nintendo World Championships, the NES edition. August, now we finally have a game for that, known as Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club. Then in the month of September, we managed to get Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. That's crazy to think that this is going to be the first time that we're going to have Zelda as a playable protagonist up in the games. I'm really looking forward to that game. And then October, we have Super Mario Party Jamboree. Oh my goodness, 20 people playing online, man, it doesn't get crazier than that. And then to conclude things off, in the month of November, we finally managed to get Mario and Luigi. I want to say Brotherhood. It ain't the Brotherhood, but it is the Brothership, though. And I'm like, man, the first time in like 15 years that we managed to finally get another Mario and Luigi series, considering the fact that Alpha Dream has, filed for bankruptcy and stuff. So this series literally came out of the grave, though. So yeah, looking at all these games, 10 out of the 12 months, and we don't know. That still could surprise us with like an eShop exclusive game for December, though. But as it stands now, 10 out of the 12 months, we managed to get a Nintendo first-party game released every single month. That is crazy. You wouldn't think that Nintendo Switch is possibly in its very last final year, where it's the only Nintendo console on the market before what could be the Nintendo Switch's 2 release in the year of 2025, though. So this kind of begs into questions like, well, what in the world they have planned for the Nintendo Switch 2, considering they're putting out all these different games? Because originally, in my mind, I was thinking this is going to be the year of remakes and remasters, just quick, easy port jobs or easy projects, things that don't necessarily break the bank. We ain't expecting like a brand new 3D Mario or a brand new 3D Zelda or something like that, or the next Xenoblade. Like, I wasn't expecting any of those games dropping out this year. Just quick, easy things to get out the door, keep, consumers entertained and occupied while you're still working on the last little details for the Nintendo Switch 2. I thought that was the name of the game of this year, though. While yes, we did manage to get some remakes and some remasters, Nintendo had a lot of tricks up their sleeves with all these different games that I just recently announced, though. So now it's like, well, if they manage to put out this many games in a year that could be its last final year, then what the heck did they have in store for next year, though? Because you would think maybe they will hold off on some of these, game announcements and reveals and release dates and stuff for next year, though. Because let's go ahead and look at, in the past and stuff, and do some little digging around and stuff and see, whether history is going to repeat itself or we're just truly in a whole new era, though. Because, in the transition between the Wii and the the Wii U came out in 2012. So I started to go through and look like, well, what were the last remaining, Wii titles that we might have gotten from 2011 up until like 2012? Right before the Wii U's release, and I only was able to come up with like a handful of stuff. Now, granted, this is like, calendar-wise years, it's almost 2 different years, but like within the span of like roughly close to 12 months, though. We managed to get Kirby's Return to Dreamland, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Mario Sports Mix, I think along with Mario Party 9. Now, this was a little bit different era of Nintendo because you had different release dates and stuff for games that come out, whether it be for the Japan region, the European region, or like North America and stuff. So the exact release dates are a little bit weird. Like, even when you look at Xenoblade Chronicles, like that came out in 2010 in Japan, 2011 for Europe, but in like 2012 for us here in America, though. So you have to kind of consider all those different release dates and stuff. But that was like only a handful of games over the span of what be almost like the roughly 12 months or like 2 different calendar years to the lead up to Nintendo Wii U. So that is crazy to think about right there. So those were really spread apart. They weren't all like back-to-back months where we're kind of at with the Nintendo Switch, though. So that is something interesting to know. And then if we were to go ahead and look at the transition between the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch, all the games that released in 2016, right before we had that Nintendo Switch drop out in like March of 2017, we had Star Fox Zero, Paper Mario Color Splash, and that remaster for The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Those were like our 3 big first-party games that we managed to get on the Wii U when it was the only Nintendo home console on the market right there, though. So even looking at that transition right there, it was only just a few. Now, I didn't mention anything about the history and stuff with the handhelds and stuff though, but if we were just only to look at the home consoles and stuff, that's only like, you're averaging about 3 to 5 years within that rough or so 12 months in the lead up to your transition and stuff. So Nintendo, it definitely shows with them releasing very few games right before the lead up to the next console. Now you look where we're at right now with the Nintendo Switch and the lead up to the Nintendo Switch 2. I just said we had 10 games in this calendar year alone. Not to mention, we also do have, Donkey Kong Country Returns coming out in January up to next year though. So I'm like, well, what the heck? Like, Nintendo is truly on a whole nother level, and they're in certainly a whole new era of Nintendo right here though, because for the longest time ever, Furukawa has been saying out multiple times in different interviews and stuff, they wanted to make this Nintendo Switch life cycle last longer than the traditional, cycle that we normally would have with hardware. Because for the most part, the average life cycle of most consoles typically used to be about 6 years or so. And, obviously, if you wind the clock back several years ago, around like that GameCube era and stuff, PS2 and all of that, I mean, some console lives were like a little less than 6. Like, I got like 5 or 4 years or something like that. Like, the graphics were kind of picking up a lot, though. However, with the Nintendo Switch, with it being 7 years old, 8 years on the market, it's truly unprecedented at this given point though. So the fact that they're putting out all these different games makes me think, well, what in the world do they have in store for the Nintendo Switch 2? Like, I'm fully confident in thinking that at least within that first year for the Nintendo Switch 2, we're going to have like a new Mario Kart, should have a new 3D Mario. I'm not expecting a new 3D Legend of Zelda or anything like that though. But at least with those two Mario related entries, I'm expecting something like that, along with potentially some other brand new IPs and stuff. Like, I don't know if the year is going to get as crazy and wild like 2017. Gosh, man, that was a great year for the Nintendo Switch though. I ain't expecting anything like that, but it probably won't be too far off from the mark of that one though, because obviously you have to have the software to boot if you really want to move units and stuff and get all of this, ecosystem that you built on the Nintendo Switch and get people to transition over to the next new console. You're just going to have some killer lineups with your software and stuff to get people to move over though. So that is just wild to see all of these different games come out this year, because for any other company out there, if it weren't Nintendo, a lot of these games might have been pushed and moved around on the calendar and stuff to kind of fill in a lot of gaps of what could be for 2025 though. I can already tell you right now, 2025 is going to be a crazy, unprecedented year. Not even just from Nintendo themselves with a potential new console and stuff and all these new other games and stuff, but even from some of the games that we kind of already know that Sony might potentially put out, as well as Xbox and stuff. It's just truly a new era of Nintendo. So y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all that you think about all of these game releases coming out in the year of 2024, as this might be very well the very last year that Nintendo might have the Switch as the only console on the market, as we're about to transition over to the Nintendo Switch 2. It's unprecedented to have this many games come out in one single year, and you wouldn't think to kind of pull your punches, like save a Super Mario Party Jamboree for next year or something like that, or possibly save some of those other games that you might have had, or a quick easy Luigi's Mansion thing. You could roll that over in the next year or something like that. I don't know what Nintendo's thinking though, but if they were confidently able to put out this many games on this, the last breath that the Nintendo Switch might have for this system right here, oh my gosh, I don't even want to know what they have in store for 2025 though. But that's gonna basically do it in terms of today's video though. So if you really like this, make sure you're gonna hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.